Hello, buddy. Welcome back. Yeah, I know. We all want vacation, but now it's time to go back to the same old boring four dimensions. There's some insanely good news though, buddy, so hang tight. What would you say if I told you that you're about to go on an adventure far beyond what the eyes can see? An exploration of a higher dimension. So, as if my previous videos haven't been crazy enough, here is one to simply take the prize, right? Because if there's one thing I have realized so far in my life is that craziness sparks great ideas. In whatever form or shape. Well, at least I want to think so myself. Sorry for that, okay? Let's begin. Let's just begin. Come over here and I will introduce you to the first test.
Test number 1. The dot.
The 0th dimension.
Alright, my friend. Have a look at this thing. What do you see? A black circle? A blob thing? Good, now we're getting somewhere. Let's put it into the bigger perspective now. What do you see now? Weird stuff that you learned in high school? Have another guess, maybe. Oh, a point in a coordinate system. Right, there we go. Okay, so here's the thing. One can portray the 0th dimension as a dot in a defined coordinate system. It neither has form or shape, width or length. It just is. It's an infinitely small dot, in a way. Come over here and we'll do the second test, right? Yeah, this way. There we go. Test number 2.
The line.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. The first dimension. Now, here we have this dot, okay? And this dot is going to evolve into something cooler and bigger. Like in Pokemon. Yeah, I couldn't find a better explanation for this thing. It's already beyond complicated. Just follow along and hope to God that you will understand anything of this, alright? Oh, so where were we? Okay, here. So this dot is going to evolve, like in Pokemon, into a one-dimensional object, alright? We create a second dot here to the right. So here's the first dot and here's the second one. And the second dot is called Bob, or something like that. Now, Bob and this Pokemon dot, let's call it Trash, okay? So Bob and Trash cannot meet in the 0th dimension because the dimension itself is confined into the space of an infinitely small dot itself. Yeah, it's complicated, but what did you expect from a video with a title like this? Come on, man. So, in order for these two dots to meet, we need to open up the first dimension. We place these dots next to each other and pretend that Trash and Bob evolves into an outer-dimensional being of immense power. In boring language, one could explain it as stacking infinite amounts of infinitely small dots until they form this one-dimensional line, but that's just, yeah, a way of putting it. So what do you see now? A one-dimensional line? The shadow of Super Mario? Well, that is up for debate, really. Pretend that you see this one-dimensional line for now. This line has length, but not width. It is infinitely thin. It is in fact so thin that, yeah, it cannot really be portrayed. Okay, this is turning out to be really complicated. Let's back off a little bit. Okay, this manuscript is already looking messy. Okay, let's remove that paragraph. There we go. Alright, test number 3. Come with me here. Okay, so this is the third room. Welcome. Yeah, have a sit. You can sit down. I wouldn't mind. So this is called the plane, or the second dimension. Okay, so this line got really bored of being a line and wanted to evolve further. It wants to become a plane, a frame, or whatever you might want to call it. A frame needs 2 dimensions to work with in order to be properly displayed as a, frame, or plane, or whatever. Let's call it a plane, alright? So we can imagine what? What do we do to evolve this one-dimensional line into a 2-dimensional plane? Yeah, go on. We stack them again. Very good. Very, very good. We stack an infinite amount of infinitely thin lines until they form a 2-dimensional plane. So here's where the fun starts, alright? This plane now resembles, well, a plane. Not a plane like an airplane, but like a sheet of paper or something. Not airplane, plane is in plane. Plane, Plane. Good. Now that's over with. Come with me to the fourth room here. Yeah, this room is out of place. We didn't have the budget to actually invest in a proper. Yeah, let's just move on with this thing. Okay, the room. This is the room. Okay, so if we didn't call it a room earlier, this is a room. Okay, the third dimension. So this plane has now learned the way of life. Okay, and is now able to reach the next level in its life, the third dimension. In this third dimension, we can access more things which look cool and, yeah, things that look like real life. So now you might ask, how do we create this three-dimensional space with a simple two-dimensional plane? Yeah, you know the drill by now. We stack the infinitely thin planes into a three-dimensional cube, or room. Yeah, see, there we go. Looks nice, doesn't it? Here's where the fun starts. Here's where we need some kind of imagination, okay? My brain simply won't ignore this topic and forces me to think about it all the freaking time. So here's what I have discovered so far, okay? And my hypothesis behind it. Time to enter the fourth dimension. Test number 5. The 3D movie reel. The fourth dimension. All right, have a seat in this room, okay? So what do you see? 404? Well, jokes aside, this room is tired of being a room. Yeah, yada, yada. It transforms, but before it transforms, what can this cubic room resemble? Everything that we know of in this universe at a single given point in time? That's a good start, isn't it? So we can see it as a frame in a movie, but three-dimensional and very complicated. Because I like complicated stuff, okay? The boring thing in these three dimensions is that nothing is allowed to really travel anywhere, because in order for motion to exist in a movie, we need several frames played in a sequence, right? So this 3D room thing is more like a photography of the universe, and photography can be quite non-dramatic. So this is what is going to happen to the universe. We're going to allow it to move. No, you, my friend, are going to allow it to move. So here's the fun part, okay? Hang tight. Okay, it's not that fun. It's more like insanely difficult, to be completely honest with you. This is a great video, isn't it? Before anything happens to this frozen 3D image of the universe, we need to understand time, okay? So this is what time looks like to us. This is what time is for humans. Yeah, it's as boring as it looks. We find the past, the present, and the future. Yada, yada, yada. You've heard this all before, I promise you. But as we all know, it's hard to make a clock go backwards. It's hard to make the universe go backwards in time. Or is it? So, we stack an infinite number of 3D universe frames into what we can call a three-dimensional flipbook or movie reel. We call it time. This allows us to move objects from one given place to another in this three-dimensional space using several frames played in sequence. This allows motion. You with me so far? Right. So, I'm soon finished, I promise. What on earth can we do to make these 4 dimensions more interesting? What is there to see in here? Except from fascinating headlines about glowing 1000-degree knives. Here's where my hypothesis comes in. The result of lots and lots of thinking in the forests. Yeah, it's that bad. The node theory. Well, it's more like a hypothesis, but theory sounds more cool, right? So we will use that. Scientists will get frustrated and everything, but we can fix that later. I'll show you what I mean, okay?
Test number 6. The node network.
The 5th dimension. Think of these 4 dimensions as a movie being played in real time, okay? We see this movie through a small window. It can be our eyes or a camera or whatever, doesn't really matter. So what if these movies get bored of being movies and create a whole society of movies. A network of timelines. Infinite amounts of timelines taking place at the same time in a dimension that we now call the fifth dimension. I don't blame you if you're lost at this point, okay? I've lost myself, so you're not alone. Anyhow, can you see some kind of pattern here? Yeah? No? You're asleep? Well, then we will move on to the fun stuff instead of going deeper into the babbling babble, okay? Here we go. Well, you see that we can alter the perspective of this extremely simple and intuitive explanation. Yeah. Take every single frame from every single timeline and place them in the fifth dimension next to each other, okay? So they are like accompanied by each other. Yeah. So let's assume that there are an infinite amount of frames in one single timeline, okay? And to make things even easier, we assume that there are infinite amounts of timelines as well. So the frames get bored of being frames and become nodes, like the dots in the zeroth dimension. See, now there's this interesting part about all this, at least according to myself, yeah? That every node is interconnected with every single other node in this fifth dimension. And this forms a two-dimensional plane made out of an insane amount of nodes and connections. It's like a web of time in a sense. So what does this mean then? Yeah? Well, let's say we could pause the time right now, right here. Boop. That's what we would call a frame in time, right? We have paused the universe and we feel really, really cool now. This snapshot of the universe is one single node in the fifth dimension, okay? And it allows us to go anywhere else, to any other moment in time. As a result, an infinite amount of information is accessible here, as everything that is happening, has happened or will happen, is stored in this space. So what if someone at some point in time gained access to this dimension? What would happen to us now? We would be able to adjust and control anything that has ever happened and will happen to us? Oh, this is not mind-bending enough. Should I say absolutely nuts? Well, and think of it this way. We can see all these possible outcomes from every single moment because we live in the four dimensions, okay? We perceive everything as a three-dimensional movie being played back to us. We perceive our world as a flow of infinitely small frames or something along those lines. Get it? Lines? No? Well, so whatever's happening to us, we believe that is the result of the flow of time along a single timeline. But what if our timeline looks like this in the fifth dimension? Our timeline has now become something similar to a road between tons of nodes. Well, an infinite amount to be exact, but I wanted to finish this video during my lifetime, so I simplified everything a little bit. So if someone got access to the fifth dimension, if like we got access to the fifth dimension as a human race, altering time would be like plotting a different route on a map. We would simply take a different way. So this really means that anything is possible, but we can only see one single outcome here in 4D. But everything is just as real as what is happening right now to us in the dimension or dimensions above. Time really goes in all directions. Crazy, isn't it? Wait, you think I'm crazy? Well, you're definitely right. No doubts about that. But it's fun to be crazy, you know? Time going backward and forward is boring. Time going anywhere is fun. Conclusion. So what on earth does this gibberish mean then? Well, one can only speculate here, alright? But I'm going to bring up some examples that springs to mind. This can, for example, mean that we're not living in one timeline, like our timeline, but we're jumping between an infinite amount of timelines, but we perceive it in the end as one single timeline having its course. This can mean that we can have access to infinite amounts of information if we discover how to explore the dimensions above. This can mean that fate, time travel, teleportation, bending of time, multiverses, alter egos, everything is just as real as everything else. Our five senses and our gift, the consciousness, is really the border for us to experience these dimensions. This can also mean that I've been outside in the forest for too long and that I should do something that is easier for my mind to handle. I have a life, okay? If anyone out there gets this message and it resonates with you, let me know. Please let me know. Because it feels somewhere that this is what I live for. Because whether I want it or not, my mind keeps thinking about this all the time. I probably am a philosopher or something. I think that's a good thing to be, because you don't have to take so much responsibility for your thinking. Then when someone asks you what you do during your working days, you can probably say that you try not to become insane, right? It's beautiful. Outro. I have an idea of explaining the 4 dimensions in an even more complicated way in an upcoming video, like why delays in our reality makes it impossible to see the 3 dimensions. So we can only see 4D. Yeah, we'll stop here. Enough is enough, okay? Rate this video however you want. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can build or demolish this hypothesis in any way you want. That's the key to progress, in my opinion. Subscribe to my channel for a new surprise 2 times a week. Thank you for participating in this mind-bending experiment. And I will see you soon.